welcome back for another month of the Ham Talk Show, sponsored by the Hamsters Week Signal Group. We are so glad you're joining us. We're going to do something a little different. See, I keep saying that every month, but we like bringing you different things to watch. Keeps things spicy. So this month, we're going to start with a little bragging section because quite a few of us have a few things that we'd like to brag on other people for. So I'd like to start out with Andrea's news about a contest she was a part of. And Andrea, would you like to tell us a little bit about what happened?
Oh yeah, from the June VHF contest, and it'll be a little while before we get official results, but the raw scores are out, and it looks like of the Rovers that I kind of met up with, KA5D Rover. Looks like he's going to take first place in the limited Rover category, and W5TN Rover is going to follow him up in second place. And then in the unlimited Rover category, it looks like the K5 SRT Rover team will take that one first place, followed by N0 LD Rover team. I, with my abort, not doing so well, but I'll probably hold the in the top 5 in the classic Rover.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Hey, I think the top 5 is still awesome. So if you want to brag on it a little, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. That's awesome. Do it.
Well, one of the nice things, I wish we'd have had this weekend's band opening during the contest. I'll tell you what, man, I was mobile on FM and on sideband and made contacts 400 or 500 miles easy. And I listened to Andrea, which is about 168 miles from me, work JD, Whiskey 1 Delta Victor Zulu, up in the Dallas area. And I heard portions of that contact. So that was kind of cool. We had fantastic band conditions.
Yeah, and 70 centimeters. I was randomly working stations there, which was good. And I, of course, worked up into Oklahoma. I did not catch the station over in Missouri. There were a few others working down to near Baton Rouge in Louisiana. It was some really nice opening.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I don't know how you do what you do. Actually, I do know a little bit about how you do it. Only because sometimes I do actually watch this because Greg was like, how can you not watch a show that you're a part of? So it sounds like a lot of fun. I would definitely like to do it.
I learned from my wife to guilt people.
We're going to figure out how to put a mute button on Greg. Anytime now, we're going to figure out how to do that.
I control the buttons.
Oh, we've got to figure out how to fix that problem too. So one of the things I'd like to share, I want to brag just for a minute or two about one of my volunteers who won an award. Many of you may or may not know the National CERT Conference 2021 was this past week in Springfield, Missouri, which is here in my home state. So I would like to tell you a little bit about my volunteer, what he won the award for, and how in the heck it ties in with amateur radio, because I'm sure you're going, CERT. So the volunteer in question was the winner of the 2021 Missouri Silver Star Award. This individual motivates, inspires, recruits, and instructs their team, which has become a well-respected team in their area. And I want to read, I was actually the one who nominated him for the award, and he was chosen. So I'd like to read it if it's all right with everybody.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Mr. Stephen Swerline KF6DRH is a retired sheriff's deputy, Vietnam veteran, Benton County, Missouri CERT volunteer, and assistant emergency coordinator of the Benton County, Missouri Amateur Radio Emergency Service. He spent all of 2020 or 2020 assisting with training and information distribution for both the ARES and CERT members, whether via radio or video conferencing, and fulfilling traffic control needs for the first responders and EMA. He continued to assist us even while learning how to perform his new duties in a leadership position because he was just appointed Assistant Emergency Coordinator last year. There has not been a single instance when the EMA has needed volunteers where he has not responded with knowledge, skill, and enthusiasm. Stephen exhibited patience and understanding while assisting volunteers with disabilities, volunteers who were young and inexperienced, and those who were unsure of how they fit in to our CERT program. He constantly gives of himself in a world that rarely acknowledges self-sacrifice and a volunteer's heart. Stephen is a pleasure to work with, and we believe he is deserving of this award due to his devotion to the CERT program, even as we get back to our new normal in 2021. Deputy Director Samantha Henley, Benton County, Missouri Emergency Management Agency. So it was their pleasure to present the 2021 Missouri Silver Star Award to an individual from the Benton County, Missouri CERT, Mr. Stephen Swerline. He was unable to be at the National CERT Conference, so my daughter, Renee, you guys have seen her on an episode or two, KE0LMZ, actually accepted the award on his behalf. Then we brought it back to Benton County and we presented it to him before our commissioners, the EMA director, fire chiefs, police chiefs, everybody was there. And so I'm sending Greg a picture of both instances, which he'll work in, I'm sure, like right here. Or just bleep me out.
I'm going to go on the other side.
Okay, other side, right here.
Yeah, there you go.
And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, even though I'm the one that wrote that, I truly feel that way. Stephen has been a rock for me through all of the craziness that I've done working for 2 emergency management agencies, ARES programs, CERT programs. He's constantly there, and he's truly the kind of person, the kind of volunteer that we can't live without. So I just wanted to take a minute to brag on Mr. Swerline, Stephen KF6DRH, because he truly deserves our thanks.
Well, congratulations to him, and I'm proud of him, and hopefully we'll continue to see people inspire and grow like that, because that's what one of the things that this hobby is about, is getting out there and putting yourself out for the good of others, along with the fun of chasing DX. So it's a combination of that. While I'm babbling, I'll go ahead and continue. Miss Melissa is finally progressing towards getting hers. I went over the other day and we examined her property. We found a perfect tower location to put the tower, and she's going to dig a hole someday. And then we're going to all go over and do a tower raising. So very soon we hope to start hearing her on the air here. So we're getting closer for that. And then and I'll let Andrea discuss a little bit, but we're working on 2 specials that'll get interjected over the next 60 days, not taking the place of a show, but in between some shows, where I am, due to circumstances in the house, moved my shack, or it moving from the front of the house to the back of the house. So I'm going to do a whole presentation on this shack, because since I'm moving it, I decided I'm going all out. I full automation, full remote control, so Samantha could talk to us through my shack. Get her on the air here, and everything with the full operations. In fact, I'm hoping I'm done when we go to Huntsville, so that while we're driving down the road, instead of using the radio, we can just connect to my shack and talk to everybody, and everything. So we're going to be doing a special on that. And Andrea, you had a special that you were also going to do.
Well, I've got quite a bit of extra content from the June VHF contest. Many sequences of contacts that I felt were very interesting during the contest that were just too long to put in my segment. Working one of the Rovers that I didn't even know was out there. AC5RN, I believe was the call.
Arc.
And just hearing their CQ. And then I mentioned in my segment working WQ0P, who I worked on 6 bands, but I actually first worked them in one grid, and I cross grids, reworked them, and got the rest of the contacts there. There's always things I look back on stuff like that and say, well, I should have worked on 6 contacts before I left the grid, but I knew I was near the grid edge, which is when I stopped. But as soon as I started moving, the grid flipped on me, and I'm like, oh well. And I didn't have enough time to sit there and wait. I had to get to where I was going. So I did end up making another stop while working them and having to move again. So those are kind of the interesting things that will give the viewer a flow of how these things work in the contest. It's not like an HF contest where you're banging out multiple contacts per minute. Sometimes you spend 10, 15 minutes just to get that one contact on 1.2 gigahertz. And in this case, there was one that took a while. And the operators in this type of contest know that. So they're persistent and they keep calling, they give you that chance. So I'll be getting some of those extra bonus content published up so we can get that posted as well.
That'll be great. Yeah, so we've got 2 specials planned where it's just going to roll right into segments without, all the rest of the fluff of the show and stuff.
Hey, so some people like that fluff,
I like that fluff. So it's there.
I noticed you didn't pick dinosaurs as your background this month.
No, the aged comments there, hurt my feelings. I cried, I wept, and it was just horrible. You crushed my entire spirit and will to live that day.
Stop! I got to be able to breathe so I can talk for this. I have tears rolling down my cheeks. Anyway, so back to the actual business at hand. We have some really awesome segments for you this month. We hope you're as entertained by them as we are. My segment is kind of easing people into being new emergency coordinators of ARES groups, because you guys know that's what I handle, is all the ARES stuff. Don't ask me about all that other stuff they do. I have no idea. But one of the hardest things that we deal with sometimes is trying to figure out how to get professionals to accept the members of ARES groups, because either they've had a horrible experience in the past with dealing with volunteers, or they don't understand that new management or whatever has stepped in and has updated their training. So my segment has a lot to do with how to make that bridge between the volunteer world and the professional world. So I hope you guys will be entertained by that, and I'm sure Greg through magic will drop it in here. Oh, sorry, here.
Whatever side you pick, I'm going on the other side.
No, you will. It's there. Yeah. And up there is probably something to connect to another video of ours, or maybe it's over there. I don't know. Pick a side.
I'll put them down on Andrea's frame.
And then I think, what do we have for Melissa and Andrea? Are they discussing?
I have questions from Andrea's contesting.
Okay. And then this month, Melissa's going to be talking to Andrea about contesting, because apparently there were a bunch of questions. You guys like to interact with us. We love it. So if you want to drop questions below or comments below on the videos, Greg and Melissa do a great job figuring that stuff out. I'm sorry, I'm usually a gazillion times too busy to get in there and read everything. So I usually get something from them, or Melissa will handle something. So it looks like this month you guys will get to hear Melissa and Andrea do a little talking.
Yeah, I do have some questions. I did watch Andrea's contesting, and the first, I have some notes. The first thing that I wanted to express is that I really enjoyed the segment. Andrea, you speak in a way that is, it's like you're intentionally speaking to be understood, and I really appreciate that. So, roving and contesting, it seems quite complex to us inexperienced new hams. So there were a few spots in the video where I played it. I paused, I had to rewind and play it over and over and over and over again. And I was making notes. I was trying to decipher what was being said so that I could, you know, go back and replay and actually follow it and read what I wrote so I can complete, you know, fully comprehend. So that, it just helped me a lot. And at about on the video at 11:38, you had it was a interior shot of your vehicle, and I immediately was looking around for some kind of like a laptop screen or some like a digital navigation map, because I was wondering in my mind, is there, so I'll say my first question is there an app or a program that overlays the grids onto like Apple Maps or Google Maps as you're driving that's active?
Well, that's a good question, because I sure wish I had something like that. Now, people that know how to manipulate Google Maps and stuff, I've seen them do grid overlays on those maps. And there's something called Rover log. There's a couple things people have made. Some people have made things with Raspberry Pis that display your grid, but I kind of you might have seen it, but it was sitting down low. I just have a paper map, so I know roughly where the grids are.
Yeah, I was like, are we doing this the old-fashioned way with a paper map, you know, and then looking for, you know, visual markers along your route?
Don't make me break out the dinosaur references again.
Hey, it wasn't me. I have a GPS.
Well, I do have a GPS running, which is up by my passenger side visor. If I have a destination to put. I also run a tablet with Google Maps, which I'm usually not looking at, but when I'm navigating in an unknown area, I'll hit a route and occasionally reference that to see that I was on the route. Gosh, it'll be in one of the bonus contents. You won't see the map, but I miss a turn and I pull off at a gas station just right after I answer somebody, I hear their CQ, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out whether this turn was mine or not. I got to get them logged, at least the initial log. And so there's long pauses in the audio there, which are me processing and doing things, even when I'm parked, but particularly if I'm moving, because I got to pay attention to driving. So things tend to happen slowly on those extra things. It's like, okay, glance over there. All right. And so in that bonus segment, you'll see me, after stopping, do a U-turn, come back to the traffic light and make the turn, because it was the turn that I had just missed.
Something I'll interject, Melissa, is you've got iPhone, download an app called Hamsquare.
Hamsquare.
Yeah. Okay. And when you download that, it will tell you your grid no matter where you're at.
Oh, wow.
And what speed you're going. Yeah, it'll tell you your speed, what grid you're in, and everything. Latitude, longitude, and stuff. It's a really cool app. So Hamsquare.
Okay, good.
All right. And I don't know if it's go ahead.
I was going to say, I also use my cheap and dirty way for finding out my grid, and particularly my 6-digit grid, is just opening Repeater Book on my phone, because that will list the 6-digit grid.
Yeah.
Sometimes that fails me because if I don't have cell network, it doesn't want to open up. I do run ARES TX and transmit my location on ARES. I don't think many people follow it, but that app doesn't display the grid, which drives me crazy. But when I'm very close to a grid line, it gives me very precise lawn information, so I know when I'm going to cross. Well, in most cases, I know about where the grids are, so know when it's coming up.
Yeah. When Ruth and I, the 2 times that we've roved, we've used Ham Square to notify exactly what grid we're going, because it tells you when you change, like from Echo Lima 09UM to Echo Lima 09UL and stuff. So you get the exact thing plus your headings and stuff. So it's a handy little app on there.
Okay, you ready for the next one?
Sure.
Okay. And this one comes from, knowing that you have what appears to be 1 million antennas on top of your car. It made me wonder, like, which antennas did you use? How many of your antennas and which ones did you use on this particular contest?
Well, the most of the antennas are there related to the contest. In the contest, it's easier to say which ones I didn't use.
Okay.
I did not use the Tar Heel Model 100 HF antenna at all during the contest. I have a CB whip up there that didn't get used, and I have a 6-meter whip that I don't think I used this contest. I was actually switching that over to do 2-meter duty. But all the Yagis got used, all the loop antennas on that rear mast, all those were used. Those are the main ones I use during the contest. The ones that don't get used too often are the little whips that are on the roof. I potentially use them. I call 14652. Sometimes I'm listening with my FM rigs while I have the other sideband rigs going. So that's the only time those are used. But everything on that rotator assembly and everything on the back I was switching between those antennas all regularly.
Wow. Another question. Do you have a power limit? What is your power limit?
Okay, there's 3 classes of Rover, so I didn't get into that at all. And I started out in what was called the limited Rover class, and I mentioned that earlier in terms of KA5D and W5TN. That one is 4 bands, and you're limited to 200 watts on 6 meters and 2 meters, and 100 watts on 1¼ meters and 70 centimeters. The other Rover categories, classic, which is what I run in, just the classic Rover category, and unlimited Rover are allowed full legal limit in terms of power. And in my case, my highest power is 180 watts on 2 meters. I do have some big amplifiers. I have a 300 watt 1¼ meter amp I want to integrate. I have 1.2 kilowatt amps for 2 meters and 6 meters that I want to figure out how to power, and I technically can run those. I do some Rovers do that. They'll carry generators on board to run that kind of power, or extra batteries. So I'm not limited in terms of power, just the normal FCC limits, which is going to be 1,500 watts. And just to finish about the 3 Rover categories, the difference between Classic Rover and Unlimited Rover is Classic Rover has restrictions in terms of operators. You're only allowed to have 2 operators. And you're limited on how many contacts you could have with another rover. Limited Rover has that same limited. Unlimited Rover can contact other rovers as much as they want. And this comes into play at a grid corner. If your rovers circle a grid corner, you can rack up hundreds of contacts. And Unlimited Rover, technically, you can move between pre-positioned equipment. So you could drive up to a tower and plug into it. Whereas a Classic Rover, everything has to be in the vehicle or on the vehicle. So that's the distinction there.
Yeah. And one of my questions was, can 2 or more people work together?
Yes, within a rover, the rules when I first started was a rover and limited rover were allowed 1 operator, but could have a driver that did no operating. That was later changed, and they're allowed 2 operators. There could be a driver as long as they're just driving. They don't take up an operator's slot. The unlimited category is allowed more, and N0LD, and I just want to give him a little credit here, in the Oklahoma Rovers, one of the reasons he runs in the unlimited category is because they can have more than 2 operators, and typically they've had 3 and 4, and he's used it for training other rovers.
Right. And another question that popped into my head while I was watching was, who decides when there will be a contest? Who decides the rules, and how is that announced or disseminated to people?
Okay, well, there's several sponsoring bodies in terms of contests. The ARRL sponsors 3 contests a year: the January VHF contest, the June VHF contest, and the September VHF contests. The rules they set are virtually the same for all 3 of those contests. The scoring is different in January with enhanced points for the microwaves because the propagation isn't as good in January in general. So that's the one that's a little oddball. The June contest, since 6 meters tends to be open the most in that time of June timeframe, that's the biggest contest of the year, and 6 meters often plays a big role in it. The September contest is kind of an intermediate one. Now, other sponsoring bodies, CQ Magazine sponsors the CQ Worldwide VHF in July, but that's just strictly VHF, 6 meters and 2 meters. Because July is a big time for sporadic E's, just like in June, that one tends to be dominated by 6 meters. I personally like the QSYing through the bands and enjoy the different propagation on different bands. So that one's not as attractive to me. And then the other major sponsoring bodies are the Central States VHF Society, which sponsors the spring sprints. This is kind of like the warm-up for the June VHF contest, where there's 6 different sprints. They're 4 hours long, except for the microwave sprint, which is 6 hours. So you can spend an evening playing on these, and it's one night's 2 meters. The next week will be 1 1/4. The next week will be 70 centimeters. Then will be the microwave, which will be during the daytime, in the morning, actually, and that one's 6 hours. And then they'll have the 6 meter on the evening and on a weekend. The Southeast VHF Society sponsors the fall sprints, and it's essentially the same setup. The rules on the sprints differ a little bit from the ARRL rules, particularly when it comes to multipliers and how they pertain to rovers. Very different scoring there. I should add the ARRL also has the UHF, UHF and up DX contest or distance contest. That one's first weekend in August or thereabouts. And that one scored very differently. It's based upon distance, not contacts and multipliers. The ARRL also has the 10 gigahertz and up contest for the people who play on those crazy microwaves. So I'm sorry, your simple question, a lot of
No, I'm just thinking you are such a wealth of information for people watching this. Amazing. One of the other questions that I had during the video, and you don't have to answer this because I went ahead and did research on it. I was so interested. So the question that popped into my head was, how did this grid system come to exist? I mean, I never even knew that there was a grid system. So I started doing research on that. That was very, very interesting. And then I found myself digging into a 2013 video from Greg's contesting, which is farther down in these videos. And it was from 2013, I believe, Greg, when you were doing some contesting.
Yeah, it was 2013.
Yeah. And so I ended up having to do the same thing with his. I had to replay, and I'm trying to write the stuff down to figure out what they're saying so that I can understand, like what the process is. And I spent several hours on this. And so the questions that I had when I was listening to Greg's was, what does QRZ mean? Like I'm familiar with QRZ, but QRZ, I'm like, and 73, they keep saying 73 and QSL and QSO. So I ended up looking all that stuff up. So I spent quite a bit of time on it. It's very, very interesting.
Ham radio lingo.
Yeah.
She finally asked a question that I could actually answer, and she's already done all the research.
Well, go ahead and answer it because somebody may not have done the research.
Right. QRZ. It's QRZ, but you say it QRZ or
these professional contesters we got going on here. I do a little contesting, a little event, special event, and QRZ helps you to clear out the person that you're speaking to so that everybody else who's listening and waiting for a chance to talk to you knows you're ready for the next contact.
But you say it as QRZ. It's really QRZ.
Right.
Z, right. But you say QRZ. So that was like
QRZ rolls better.
Yeah, right.
It does. And everybody's listening for it.
And remember, a lot of these things come back from shorthand of the CW days. It's easier to say 73 than have a good day.
Have a nice day.
Later. On that. One thing on that 2013 contest video, if you've never contested or anything and you want to see a good taste of what it's like, there is some time period where I've got really fast pace going there. I think we made something like 600 contacts in a 2-hour period. Wow. That day. It was a big band opening, and 90% of it was on 6 meters.
Okay, I was excited about our 200 in an hour. Man, that whoops us.
6 meters gets to be like running an HF contest. And I just wanted to comment on the Z, which is sort of how British people will say Z. Part of the reason for Z in particular is certain letters sound very similar when you just say the letter. Right. C, D, E, Z. Yeah. And so it's very easy to fall back on the British Z to clarify Z. And as somebody with this Z in my call, K2EZ is a lot clearer than K2EZ. So,
yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for all of the questions and answers. I think that we've probably got about 12,000 more people that'll be asking questions. You guys can just drop your questions right now.
Yes, please. Yes, ask your questions. And also, if you want to share the pictures of your ham station or your towers, your equipment, send those in to hamsters-updates@144-200.net. We want to see pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll roll right into my segment, which again is going to be a little bit about how you can welcome your new emergency coordinator into your ARES group. And if you happen to have one that has some new ideas, just go ahead and give them a chance to stretch their legs and try out some new things. You'll also find that a good emergency coordinator will be happy to take your feelings and what you like to do into consideration as well. We don't always jump in and try to get rid of the old things. We just want to update with new technology or new information. You'll see a lot in this day and age about the NIMS, the National Incident Management System, because all of our volunteers work within that system now. So I'll talk a little bit about that in my segment coming up next. Hey everybody, I know that you are super excited to once again have another video from me. Okay, maybe not, but here's what I'd like to do this month. There are a couple of changes going on in my world, and there are a couple of changes going on in Greg's world, so I thought I would cover something that is kind of important. Actually, it's extremely important when it comes to changing of the guard for the emergency coordinator for ARES groups. Now, a lot of times there can be some headbutting or people who are leaving a position because they don't want to be there anymore or they feel like they're being forced out, and they end up leaving the new emergency coordinator in a tough position because that means they have to start from scratch learning how to do things again. This can be everything from the paperwork, the reports that we have to do every month. I don't know how it is in your state, but I'm responsible as emergency coordinator of the Benton County ARES for 2 reports every month. The first one is a report to the Missouri Traffic Net, where we explain how many contacts we've had and how many nets we've had each month, and how much traffic we've passed within our group. And then the other one that we do is a report to our district emergency coordinator, and that goes into a little more detail with what kind of activity and training the ARES group is participating in during the month. So I kind of want to give you a few tips because I was thrown into this in a very unexpected way, a very difficult way, I want to say. So I kind of want to give you guys a little insight to what will make life easier on new emergency coordinators. And I'm sorry if the camera's crooked because it's just on a little tripod. Hopefully this is coming across well. Okay, so let's launch right into it. The first thing is, let's go with what your actions are when you're getting a new emergency coordinator. There's going to be some time when they need to get used to what they're doing and what their job is. So have a little patience with them. They're not going to get it all right away. It took me almost a full year to figure out everything I needed to do and all the reports I needed to write and all the paperwork I needed to keep track of for the group. So I would say first things first, go easy on your brand new emergency coordinators. Let them get their feet under them before you start jumping at them with things you want changed in the group or things that you think would work better. Or, as a matter of fact, give them a chance to let you know some of the things that they can do, because they may be bringing an entirely new set of skills and an entirely new way of doing things that you may enjoy a lot more. That being said, you could have the opposite problem where you really liked your previous emergency coordinator and you don't like the new one so much, or you think you don't like the new one as much. Give them a chance, you know? It's just like we teach our kids in school. Let's give everybody a chance, because none of us are perfect. And in the long run, when it comes down to emergency communications and what we do for the world, we're just all trying our best. We really are. We're giving it our all. And if we're going through this much effort to do that kind of good, cut us some slack, you know? Okay, so a little bit more in depth. I'm going to speak about Missouri's things that we do and the reports we do. You will want to look into your state and what they require from local ARES groups, or speak directly with your district emergency coordinator, because they're going to be the ones who know what reports need to be done and what information needs to be turned in. In the long run, the point of these reports, not only to the statewide nets, but to your district emergency coordinator, are so that we can keep up that fight for the bandwidth. Okay, there are big companies that are wanting to take chunks out of amateur radio bandwidth constantly. And in order to keep our position and not lose it, we have to prove that we're using the band. And now in order to do that, we have to turn in these reports. So I don't look at these reports as a bad thing every month. Yes, it takes a little bit of time and it takes some effort to figure out everything that's involved in the reports, but it's worth it. It's worth it to keep our section of the bandwidth, okay? Here in Missouri, we have the Missouri Traffic Net, as I mentioned earlier, and this is just where we take traffic from all around the state and we pass it to other places in the state. We take traffic from outside of the state and we pass it inside or back out to another state. There's a whole bunch of reasons that we have a Missouri Traffic Net, and it's wonderful. We love it. This is the place that we let them know how many nets did our group run, how many check-ins did we have for the month, how much traffic did we pass. Those are the three key pieces of information that they want to know, because again, we're using bandwidth, and proving that we're using it in a good way for a good reason gives us that fight. And it gives us that effort and that protection of that piece of the band that we're looking for. Bands, I guess I should make that plural. All right, so after that, we have the emergency coordinator report that goes up to our district emergency coordinator. Now, on this report, we have to cover things like what kind of trainings did you do? What kind of nets did you run? What kind of community involvement did you do? Amidst all of that, we also get to include how did we promote amateur radio over social media? How did we use our website? Because the Benton County ARES has a website, bentoncountyares.org. We have a Facebook page at Benton County ARES. So they want to know, how did you help? How did you use your hobby to help? And we write out full reports on what we do. Part of the Benton County ARES responsibility is to manage the net control operations for the Region A healthcare net. And we have cooperation from quite a few long-term care facilities, hospitals, health departments, things like that, that we run once a month to make sure that their equipment is working, to make sure that their people understand how to speak over the radio. As a matter of fact, we piloted a program of how to talk on amateur radio to get nurses and doctors who got their licenses just to help, how to get them to give us the right information over the radio so we could get them more help. It's probably one of the most useful things that I've been told that we offer to the health departments and the healthcare facilities within our Region A of Missouri. So that's a big part of what emergency coordinators do. The other thing that I'll talk right to you emergency coordinators. I don't care if you're new, I don't care if you've been doing it for 30 years, I don't care. One of the biggest things that we have to do when we take on the mantle of emergency coordinator is we have to be that driving force. We have to decide, what is our group going to do? What kind of things are we going to get involved in? You know, our group in Benton County partners tightly with our CERT, our Community Emergency Response Team, and we do things like traffic control. We do things like putting up radio communications along 5K runs or bicycle routes or anything like that that's going on in our county. So it's something that we have been fortunate in Benton County to partner with the Emergency Management Agency, to partner with the county to have an emergency communications trailer built that we use as a way station, especially along these longer bike routes such as the Butterfield. So one of the best things you can do is start building that relationship with your emergency management director and deputy director if you're fortunate to have one. And there may be times when they don't understand the technical speak of amateur radio. So you want to find a way to explain what we do to them, not by treating them as if they don't understand anything, but make it easy to understand. You know, you don't have to use super technical speak when you want to talk to somebody and explain the excitement that we get and the reason and the calling that we have to do this work, to make that our volunteer effort. So take that time to reach out and talk to you'll be surprised some of the places. For instance, we have fire chiefs and people on the fire department who have amateur radio licenses. A lot of our electronics guys who install phone systems and things like that for our 911 centers, they are amateur radio operators and nobody knows it because it's a hush-hush secret for some reason. Reach out to the people that you don't even know if they know we exist or that we're still relevant in this day and age of cell phones and the internet and everything else. That stuff fails. It has failed. There's plenty of newspaper articles, there's plenty of blogs out there that talk about how all of a sudden they had no communications, but here came amateur radio operators and boom, we were providing them communications when there was none. So get that point across to commissioners. If you're working with your county, talk to your county commissioners, not in a way that seems pushy, but in a way that seems like, look, we're just here to help. We're here to help you cover a gap that you may have, especially in rural communities. And I've done a number of talks on how ARES works in rural communities. So talk to these people. Talk to your fire chiefs and your police chiefs and EMS, and talk to Road and Bridge. Talk to your commissioners. But above all else, talk to your emergency management directors, because we're the hub of communications when an emergency actually happens. But that's one big key component to what I would say directly to the brand new emergency coordinators or those who are just taking on the mantle for the first time. These are going to be your people who have the connections, have the will, and have the want to see you as a valid resource and a valuable resource, not only for the county itself, for the government, for the agencies, for the organizations involved, but for the people. And that's where you really bring it back to, is you just want to help the people involved. You want to reach out to the community, and you want to help the residents and the visitors in your county, especially if your county is a lot like both of mine that I deal with, both Benton and Camden in Missouri. We're huge visitor and tourist destination. The Lake of the Ozarks, huge. So we have a lot of residents that come in or a lot of visitors that come in just for the summertime, you know, and watching your population triple over 3 months time period. Yeah, that's a big deal. So my suggestion to you guys is just be as open and as cooperative and as forthcoming with the information and the effort to help, and be willing to listen. Because sometimes if we go in wanting to tell them all we can do, we forget to listen to what they need. And if we hear their need and we can fill that, then they are going to welcome us in with open arms. And to those of you who have a difficult time, and I know there are a lot of places out there where your emergency management doesn't work with amateurs, take a deep breath and go in from a different route. Your fire departments, you might be able to get some cooperation from. Your VOADs, your COADs, go through them. But above all else, don't give up. You guys know what good you can do. Just keep trying.
So, from me here in Little Missouri, little rural Missouri, just a little bit of advice for all of you who are new to the emergency coordinator position. I hope this helped you out.
Okay, so I hope that helps you guys out. Remember, if you have any questions, maybe some more suggestions for brand new emergency coordinators that may be coming on, you can drop that information right down in the comment section below, or as Melissa said earlier, you can email it over to Greg and he'll put that link in the description as well. And we want to hear from you. If you have something you want to share with us, a funny story, anything like that, we do. We want to hear from you, because our experiences in Missouri and Texas, for all the rest of the people on this show.
Well, occasionally she's in New Jersey.
And occasionally New Jersey. So our experience is not necessarily the same as what you have going on in your states or in the small counties or large counties you may be in. We want to hear from you. Go ahead and send in pictures, send in stories, send in anything that you'd like to communicate with us, because that's what this whole thing is about, is just sharing and enjoying and being part of this community. And I can say that I've been welcomed into the community, well received, and I'm sure at this point Melissa can say that she's probably had a pretty good experience so far too.
Yes.
I love putting her on the spot. Can you tell?
Yeah.
And Andrea and Greg, I know that we have all had some really awesome experiences, although I got to tell you, I've had some pretty rough experiences too. That might have to be my segment for next month.
There you go.
There you go.
But we'd like to thank you guys for joining us once again for Ham Talk. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. We know that you guys are just as busy as we are, and we really enjoy doing this show. So any last thoughts, everybody?
Just everybody, keep an eye out for our 2 special segments that we'll be doing in the next 60 days and everything. And look forward to next month. And we've got some special VHF, UHF stuff for everybody coming up.
And we once again like to thank our sponsors, the Hamsters Week Signal Group. We know without you guys, this show would not even be possible. So big, huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you to Greg, who always edits this and makes us look our best. Pardon the sunshine coming in over here. I don't know what he's going to do about that.
I'm going to ignore it.
We're all going to ignore it. You can see me inching towards this side of the screen. Thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you, and we look forward to bringing you another edition of Ham Talk next month.
See, it's just evidence that you have a sunny personality.
That's going in the outtakes.
Good night, everybody.
All right.